Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker is said to introduce many new characters in this film by writer and director J.J. Abrams and Chris Terrio. This is Mike Zero. If you guys are new to the channel, do make sure to subscribe to see future Star Wars content. Now, one thing about this film that a lot of people are really looking forward to is, of course, the new foe/new villain that will be introduced in this movie that's going to be used, in a sense, in order to force the interactions between both Kylo Ren and Rey to team up and take down this new threat that is also described to be the greatest evil, as director J.J. Abrams said at Star Wars Celebration. So what really intrigues me about this new villain is how they are adding a new enemy in the last film of a Star Wars trilogy, which honestly I think it tells us that this is going to be JJ's way of really giving, a reason as to why there's going to be a Kylo Ren redemption arc, it seems. Now, these past couple of weeks or so, we've been learning a whole lot more about this film, and when it all comes down to one of the concept art descriptions, this is where things begin to get very exciting and sure. So, specifically, a description of both Kylo Ren and Rey using the Force Push ability against the new villain into a pile of rubble. It's described that both Kylo and Rey are very close to each other and trying to take down the new threat. The next goes over the new villain using Force Lightning against Kylo Ren, where it's described that Kylo is able to use the Force Stasis technique to block the lightning, where Kylo is able to move the strike of lightning into the ceiling above them. It's described that this is when the new villain engages both Kylo Ren and Rey, where all three lightsabers are locked together, where the villain eventually knocks down both Kylo Ren and Rey, where he begins to give a lecture to them about the beyond. It said that this new villain in the film is going to be the strongest one used in the Star Wars films, and that the villain is known as multiple identities. Lastly, a description of the villain force pulling Kylo Ren toward him, where he has Kylo Ren by the neck, where it's described that Rey strikes the villain's shoulder in an attempt to protect Kylo, which transitions to a battle between both Rey and the new villain, while Kylo Ren is knocked down. So I really want to go over a couple of parts about all of this because, let's face it, this really does bring me back to the prequel trilogy era, where we actually got a lightsaber fight or just a force fight between three different characters. Now, first things first, the one thing that I do want to go over that really does intrigue me is how this new villain in Episode 9 is said to have multiple identities. Now, the fact that this new villain has multiple identities and is also known as simply the Shifter, as we went over just a couple of days ago, it really does bring one to question as to exactly who he really is and how much we are really going to learn about this character after Episode 9's release in the forms of other canon material like comics, books, novels, you name it. So I really am starting to believe that this is Matt Smith's character. We do know that Disney and Lucasfilm are keeping Matt Smith's role in this movie on lockdown. They really had very little cast and crew working with the character of Matt Smith. So there's a possibility that Matt is portraying the new villain in Star Wars Episode 9. So, first things first, the fact that this new villain is able to use the power of Force Lightning against Kylo Ren, where Kylo Ren uses the Force Stasis technique to block the lightning in mid-air, it just tells us that Kylo Ren has become a whole lot more stronger than he ever was in comparison to the past two movies. In The Force Awakens, Kylo was able to use the Force Stasis technique against Poe Dameron, and now he's able to use it even more against the new villain in Episode 9. So this new villain, what's really intriguing is that eventually it's described that he gives a lecture to Kylo Ren and Rey while they are down on the ground about the beyond. So we do know that the beyond has a deep connection to this new villain, as we have said before in the past that this new threat comes from the beyond and is going to make Kylo Ren feel very vulnerable at a certain point in time in Episode 9. And with that being said, the fact that they are using this villain in order to really kind of force both Kylo Ren and Rey teaming up to take on a greater threat, it really does bring one to question, what does this necessarily mean? Does this really mean that we are going to get that Kylo Ren redemption arc? Is this going to be Kylo's way of realizing exactly, what evil really looks like? It could very well change Kylo's perception on what it feels like to pretty much be a, person that's facing a greater evil. And this could very well offer Kylo Ren a different view on things, where maybe he views himself as that thing now, right? So when we look at everything here that's going into Star Wars Episode 9, how J.J. Abrams is very ambitious, as well as Chris Terrio, we also know that this new villain has a lot of inspiration from Star Wars Legends / the Expanded Universe, and is based off of an ancient Sith Lord. He grabs Kylo Ren by the neck, and as he does, he is actually revealing a lot more facts about the Beyond before Rey strikes the villain's shoulder, which transitions over to the battle between both Rey and the new villain in this film. So, like I say, guys, I think that this is something that a lot of fans have been asking for the longest time, is to actually have a real, legitimate villain in a Star Wars film within the sequel trilogy, because at the end of the day, we do know that Kylo Ren is a conflicted character. Yes, JJ will be taking him down a far darker path in the first and second acts of the film, but eventually in this movie, the conflict within Kylo Ren will come back, and that's going to be all done through the new villain in Episode 9. Anyways, guys, drop a comment below, let me know what you think about all of this in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.